I wish you were never born. Those words, uttered by my own father on my 21st birthday, cut through the festive atmosphere like a poisoned blade. Can you even imagine hearing that from the man who helped create you on a day meant to celebrate your existence? Tell me, if someone said that to you, what would you do? Because what came next, well, it was something he never, ever saw coming. Let me take you back, way back to the beginning to understand how we even got to that horrific moment. My earliest memories of my dad are a strange mix. There were flashes of warmth, a brief period when he would throw me up in the air or tell me bedtime stories, but even then there was an underlying current of something. A resentment, a distance. He was always busier with work, always more invested in his hobbies, always just a little too absent. My mom, bless her heart, tried to fill the void. She was a kindergarten teacher, overflowing with love and patience, and she was my rock. She told me stories of how excited my dad was when they first found out they were having a baby, how he'd kissed her belly and talked about all the things he'd teach me. But then after I was born, something shifted. He became withdrawn, cold. I was a quiet child, always trying to please, always trying to earn a smile, a nod, anything from him. My academic achievements, my sporting efforts, my artistic endeavors, all met with a shrug or a dismissive. That's nice. It felt like I was constantly auditioning for a role I was never going to get, the role of loved child. My younger sister, Chloe, however, was a different story. She arrived 5 years after me, a bubbly, vivacious whirlwind of energy. From the moment she could toddle, she had my dad wrapped around her little finger. He'd laugh at her silly jokes, patiently teach her how to ride a bike, spend hours building elaborate Lego castles with her. It wasn't just that he loved her, it was the stark contrast to how he treated me. It was like I was a permanent shadow in the corner, while Chloe was bathed in a spotlight of his affection. My mom tried to mediate, she really did. She'd pull him aside, whisper to him about fairness, about how I needed his attention too. But it never stuck. He'd offer a fleeting, almost forced interaction with me, and then retreat back to Chloe's side, their laughter echoing through the house, a constant reminder of what I lacked. I remember one Christmas, I must have been 10, and I'd spent weeks crafting a wooden birdhouse for him in my woodworking class. I was so proud. Chloe, meanwhile, had drawn him a stick-figure family portrait. When he opened my gift, he gave a cursory glance and said, "Oh, nice," then promptly turned his attention to Chloe's drawing, exclaiming over every lopsided detail. I felt a pang so sharp it nearly took my breath away. It wasn't just the gift, it was the gesture, the effort, the love I'd poured into it dismissed so easily. As I grew older, the favoritism didn't lessen, it calcified. Chloe got the newer car for her 16th birthday, while I had to drive the battered old sedan. Chloe's college applications were meticulously reviewed by him, her essays edited, while mine were glanced at, and then he'd tell me to figure it out. I worked tirelessly, paid my own way through state university with scholarships and part-time jobs, determined to prove my worth, not just to him, but to myself. I excelled, graduated with honors, and landed a fantastic job in marketing. Chloe, on the other hand, struggled a bit more academically. She chose a less rigorous path, and when she graduated, my dad pulled strings to get her an entry-level position at a friend's company, a company he had business dealings with. He even helped her with the down payment on her first apartment, something he never offered me, despite my far more precarious financial situation after graduation. Every milestone in my life, every achievement, felt like it was celebrated with a silent, invisible asterisk from him, while Chloe's smallest victories were met with grand fanfare. I started to internalize it, to believe there was something fundamentally wrong with me, something unlovable. My relationship with Chloe was complicated. She wasn't malicious, not intentionally. She was just used to being the favorite, to having things handed to her. Sometimes, I think she genuinely didn't realize the extent of the disparity. Other times, I saw a flicker of guilt in her eyes, especially when my mom would gently scold our dad about his unfairness. But she never truly stood up for me, never really confronted him about it. It was easier for her to just enjoy the privileges. My mom continued to be my greatest advocate, my emotional anchor. She saw the pain, she tried to mend the rift, but my dad was an immovable object. He would just shut down any conversation about it, retreat behind a wall of silence. His excuse was always, "Chloe needs more help," or "you're more independent," which felt like a backhanded compliment, or more accurately, an excuse to justify his blatant favoritism. I resigned myself to it, accepting that I would never truly have a father in the way Chloe did. I focused on building my own life, my own success, and my own chosen family of friends. I poured my energy into my career, my hobbies, and nurtured the relationships that brought me joy, rather than constantly seeking validation from a man who seemed incapable of giving it. The months leading up to my 21st birthday were no different. My mom was planning a small gathering, a nice dinner at our favorite Italian restaurant. My dad seemed indifferent, asking only about the guest count and the cost. He didn't ask what I wanted, what I envisioned for my special day. Chloe, ever the dutiful sister, offered to help my mom with decorations, picking out a cake, things I honestly appreciated, even if it felt a little perfunctory. I tried not to have high expectations for my dad. I'd learned, over 2 decades, that expecting anything more than a lukewarm presence from him was a recipe for disappointment. I just wanted a peaceful evening, surrounded by the people who truly loved me, my mom, my friends, and even Chloe. I told myself it was just another birthday, another year older, another year of quiet resilience. But deep down, a tiny, hopeful part of me, the part that still yearned for his approval, wondered if maybe, just maybe, this milestone birthday would be different. Maybe he would finally see me, acknowledge me, celebrate me. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Here I was, 21 years old after a lifetime of feeling like a second-class child, and my father had just delivered the cruelest blow imaginable. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have walked away? Would you have confronted him? What would your next move have been? The birthday dinner started off pleasantly enough. My friends were there, my mom was beaming, and even Chloe seemed genuinely happy for me. We were halfway through the main course, toasts had been made, and I was feeling surprisingly good, despite my dad's usual quiet demeanor. He hadn't said much, just offered a terse, happy birthday when I arrived. Then, as dessert was being served, my mom, ever the optimist, cleared her throat and said, "Honey, why don't you say a few words about our wonderful daughter on her 21st birthday?" My dad sighed a little too loudly. He took a sip of water, looked around the table, and then his eyes landed on me. It was a cold, detached gaze, devoid of warmth or affection. He cleared his throat again, and then, in a voice that was calm, almost conversational, he uttered those 6 soul-crushing words. "I wish you were never born." The restaurant went silent. My mom gasped, a small, choked sound. Chloe dropped her fork, a clatter echoing in the sudden quiet. My friends, who had heard snippets of the favoritism over the years but never anything so blunt, looked horrified. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. It was like all the air had been sucked out of the room. A lifetime of neglect, of feeling less than, of striving for an approval that never came, coalesced into that single, devastating sentence. And then, a switch flipped. The quiet, resilient girl who always tried to please, who always made excuses for him, was gone. In her place was a woman who was done. Absolutely, irrevocably done. I pushed my chair back, the scrape of it on the floor echoing loudly. Everyone looked at me. My dad, surprisingly, looked a little bewildered, as if he hadn't quite grasped the magnitude of what he'd just said. "You wish I was never born," I repeated, my voice surprisingly steady, though my hands were trembling under the table. "You really wish that?" He shifted uncomfortably, finally meeting my gaze. "Well, it's just, things would have been easier, wouldn't they?" he mumbled, avoiding eye contact. Easier. Easier for whom? For him. At that moment, something inside me snapped. All the years of pain, of trying, of hopping, burst forth. "Easier?" I asked, my voice rising a little. "Easier for you, because I wasn't the daughter you wanted, because I wasn't Chloe, because I wasn't bubbly and easy and didn't fit your perfect mold." Tears were streaming down my mom's face now, and Chloe looked mortified. My friends were just staring, mouths agape. "Do you have any idea what it's like," I continued, "to spend your entire life feeling like a burden, like an afterthought? To constantly try to earn a sliver of affection from your own father, only to be met with indifference, or worse, resentment." He tried to interrupt, "Now, hold on a minute," but I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. This was 21 years of suppressed hurt finally erupting. "No, you hold on," I shot back, my voice gaining strength. "You want to know what came next. What came next was me working 3 jobs to put myself through college because you couldn't be bothered to help." What came next was me building a career from the ground up, without a single contact or a leg up from you, while you spoon-fed Chloe opportunities. What came next was me realizing that I don't need your approval, your affection, or your presence to be a successful, happy, and loved person. Then I looked directly at him, my eyes burning. And you know what else came next, Dad? The realization that if you wish I was never born, then I wish I never had a father like you. I paused, letting that sink in. The silence in the restaurant was deafening. He looked genuinely shocked now, his mouth slightly agape. Consider this, I said, my voice dropping to a low, icy tone. Your wish granted. You no longer have to pretend to have a daughter who disappoints you. Because I am officially cutting you out of my life, effective immediately. Don't call me, don't email me, don't try to find me. To me, you are nothing but a stranger. I then turned to my mom, whose face was a mixture of pride and anguish. Mom, I love you, and I'll be in touch. To Chloe, I simply gave a long, sad look. Chloe, I hope you understand someday. Then I grabbed my purse, walked out of the restaurant, and didn't look back. The aftermath was an earthquake. My mom called me later that night, crying, but also telling me she was proud of me for standing up for myself. She understood, she said, and she would support whatever decision I made. My friends rallied around me, offering comfort and unwavering support. Chloe tried to call, leaving tearful, voiceless messages, but I wasn't ready to talk to her. Not yet. My dad, surprisingly, didn't try to contact me directly. It seems my words, "Consider your wish granted," had truly sunk in. He probably thought I would eventually come crawling back, as I always had, subconsciously, for his approval. But this time, it was different. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. I changed my number, blocked him on all social media. My mom kept me updated. He was apparently furious at first, then bewildered, then she hinted, a little lost. He'd lost his punching bag, his constant source of unspoken disappointment. Chloe eventually showed up at my apartment a few weeks later, tears in her eyes. She apologized, truly, deeply apologized, for never speaking up, for never seeing the depth of my pain. We had a long, difficult conversation, and while our relationship will always be a work in progress, it was the first honest conversation we'd ever had about our dad. I told her I couldn't completely cut her out because she was my sister, but that she needed to understand that my decision about our father was firm. My mom eventually told me that my dad was now a shell of his former self, isolated and miserable, occasionally trying to send cryptic messages through her, which I promptly ignored. He had wished for me to be gone, and now he was living with the consequences of that wish. My life, without his looming shadow, began to flourish in ways I never thought possible. I felt lighter, freer, truly myself for the first time. The constant anxiety of seeking his approval was gone. I thrived at work, I nurtured my friendships, and I found a profound sense of peace. It was incredibly painful, ripping that wound open, but ultimately it was the most liberating thing I've ever done. So here I am, sharing this story with you. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from toxicity, even when it comes from family. It's not easy and it leaves scars, but true freedom often lies on the other side of bravely choosing yourself. If you've ever felt like an unwanted child, like you constantly have to prove your worth, know that you are not alone. You are worthy of love, acceptance, and respect, exactly as you are. Like this video if you were on my side, and subscribe for more stories like this. Share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story.